We want to give us the most honest answer.
Absolutely.
Of course, at any point in time, if you're lying, a beeper will set off.
Okay.
It's causing a mild electric
I don't
current.
need this anymore. Yeah.
You don't need it. You like just randomly hitting it. I don't know why. Yeah, it's like a little beat. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Okay, Samit, tell us. When you wrote this, first of all, is the true reason for writing this book one, because you really felt like you wanted to write and because you're a wonderful writer, or you just wanted to get popular with young girls in Chittaranjan Park?
Not at all. My commitment to literature. See, the thing is, when you write, you feel this inner urge to share with the world the depth of the great ideas that you have.
First, it's not about money and fame.
I have no money or fame. Thank you so much for pressing that.
Okay. Samit, while we talked a couple of days ago, you met me at a show and you told me that while you were even writing the book, you wrote it visualizing the book launch and you couldn't think of anybody else but me for the book launch. Later on, I found a number 82 at the bunch of people who wanted it, and I was after Sadashiv Anupurkar. Is this true or is this?
You're not Sadashiv Anupurkar?
Okay, one more important question. Clearly this book has been, let me rephrase. This book, in all probability, is going to get you an important book deal. Now, rumor has it.
Book deal?
I mean, a movie deal.
Okay.
Right?
Can I have that paper?
I've heard some very important producers already have called you, asking for the book deal, but you have said no because you'd like to cast yourself in the lead. Is this true?
Yes, because I'm slowly arriving at the kind of dimensions that the plane on the cover has. I could accommodate most of Bollywood's leading men and ladies.
This is the first time the people have given a lot of choice. And the last question before we go. At some point in time, at 3 occasions alone, I have personally seen, did you at any point try to trip Chetan Bhagat as he walked out? in a sudden spasm of anger and mild jealousy.
I have never felt any jealousy of Chetan.
God, you should be ashamed. Anyway, we'll end this now. I'm very happy and thankful for you to have us all here now. And yes. And is there any alcohol?
There is alcohol.
There is alcohol. There's no. Thank you all so much, Samit Basu, star, boxer,
legend. Okay. Just please give Cyrus a round of applause.
Wow. Yeah, questions?
Oh yeah, questions.
Are mics working?
Yes.
Samit?
Why did I change my publisher?
Louder, please.
Why did you take a shed?
That's why it's not working.
Okay, I'll tell you why I changed my publisher. It's look, I started out writing fantasy, and while there were lovely people at my first publisher, it was always going to be this kind of experimental book which was put out in the market. If anything happened, it would happen, and you know, word of mouth. Thankfully, the books did well, and all of that. But eventually, as you know better than most other people in this country, you also need to make a living from selling books. So after spending a certain number of years in the business, I wanted to go with a publisher that would would get really excited about the book, that would push the book as one of the big books of the year. And Hachette was more excited about the book than other people. Also, Thomas, who heads Hachette, was the person who was at Penguin when my first book went in, and there was a lot of opposition to publishing literary fiction at Penguin then, and he was the guy who pushed it through. So 7 years later, I felt he was heading this company. I should see whether his trust in me was going to take me to the next step.
God, you broke the machine?
Yeah.
So there are so many superhero stories, comics, movies around. So was there any conscious effort to make your superheroes different from those guys? Or?
See, the thing is, there's been 80 years of superhero fiction across the world. Any superpower you think of, someone's got it. There's an arm tear-off boy. There's an arm tear-off boy who was a Marvel 50s character who tears his arm out and beats people with it. There's one of my favorite superheroes, a guy called the Defenestrator. Defenestration, for those of you who don't know, is when you throw someone out of a window. So the Defenestrator is this very tough-talking big guy in a trench coat who carries this window frame around with him. And you know, should he get into a fight, he's very adept at fighting. He it always ends when he throws someone through this window frame. So you really can't spend, you can't think of new superpowers when there have been hundreds of people, most of them on serious drugs, coming up with superpowers for people all this time. So I just figured I would try and come at it from a slightly different angle. In the sense, I don't think there are too many books where you're, actually here and now. And for example, if you suddenly pop 3 claws from your hand, you would think of Wolverine. You wouldn't just think, I have these incredible claws. How do I use them to change the world? So I wanted to set a book in a world like that, in the real world, in other words.
Applause? Questions?
It's either or. We don't have to do this, guys, or you could just ask me like afterwards.
I have a question about your Game World trilogy.
Right.
Because of the intricacy of the plotting, and I'm just curious as a writer how you approach that and how you keep track of so many plots and like what's your system?
Many word files. Many word files, each with stuff. I go through these many times doing intricate movements in the cut paste school of dance. Eventually I arrive. I've also been doing comics and film scripts the last couple of years, so you learn new structuring tricks from those as well. So you kind of throw it together and bring it down to one word file, which is when you have solved all questions and the keys to life are now yours. Right, thank you all for coming. You have a question?
Yeah, I always have a question. Okay, a lot of your previous work, like the Titanic, Terror on the Titanic, and your game world, you build on existing histories, mythologies, fictions, whatever those might be, and eventually, your narrative in some way, kind of it tugs at a string that goes back into things that most of your readers are very familiar with. And in this particular case, I haven't read your book, so I'm just going to assume that you're pretty much starting from, carte blanche. So, how's that experience? How do you go about writing that kind of a story as compared to something where you're going to start building on stuff that already people are familiar with?
Right. I'm always very confused when someone says, how was the experience? Because good. And it was fun. I wanted to write. See, I'd always been telling these stories that have been kind of independent. I mean, had been drawing from the real world in every sense, but had been kind of independent of actual day-to-day living. And I spent my entire 20s in front of a computer screen typing, and I still do that, though I'm not in my 20s anymore. But I also want to, write different things. So I figured the most radical departure would be to write a fairly non-genre thing, completely set in, places like Coffee Day, Carter Road, which is where some scenes are set, or Delhi, places I know. It was a good experience.
Samit, there's this tongue-in-cheekness in whatever you do.
I have such large cheeks, I can't help it.
That's what. That was the question. You're going to have a serious, earnest superhero?
Sorry?
An earnest superhero.
There are many earnest superheroes.
Yeah, but the way you had a dream,
No, but they're very serious. This is a very serious book. Honestly. Seriously, it's serious.
You must not judge the book by its writer.
Yeah.
So are you just waving, or is that a question?
Hey, go.
So in the last book launch, you promised that you were working on an erotic novel. Is this the same book with that?
No, that's a different one. When did I promise this and how drunk was I? Which one? That wasn't my last book launch. I wrote another book after that.
And what happened to the erotic novel?
I'm working on it.
Cyrus is watching it.
Weren't you reading?
I'm following Cyrus around.
Always.
Cyrus was reading from it.
You wrote one story though.
Yeah. Based entirely not on my own experience.
Please summon Durga Puja in Calcutta.
It's more common than you.
Last question. Are we done?
Yeah.